I was always that kid, the one who loved school. And frankly, school loved me back. I went to a school, I was very fortunate to go to a public but very academically challenging school from 7th through 12th grade. Two of our more famous alums at the moment are Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan and the all-around amazing Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yeah, slackers. But I thrived. I'm not famous like them, but I thrived at the school. I loved it. I worked really hard. I consistently did well in all of my classes. I killed on standardized exams. I did great in the labs. Outside of class, I was on the student government. I chaired the annual fundraising fair that we had. I founded the Model UN Club. So by the time I started college at Barnard, I pretty much had my self-image set. I was the smart kid achiever. And more than that, my direction in life was set. Since making a test tube explode in a chemistry set when I was 10, I knew that I was set for a career, a life in the sciences. And now I played around with some different ideas, forensics and this and that, but by the time I was a senior in high school, I interned at a genetics lab at Mount Sinai Hospital. So I had decided that I was going to major in biochemistry, then I was going to go get an MD, PhD in biochemistry, and settle down in a biomedical research laboratory. And aside from just really wanting to be a mad scientist, the reason I wanted to do this was because these science courses, the science stuff, it was so interesting. It was like this critical thinking and creative thinking and constant learning, and then bringing it into a biomedical setting, I was going to be able to do this creative problem solving to help people. So there I was, freshman in college, sophomore in college, and I'm taking these classes that I had just been dreaming about. Organic chemistry and immunology and microbiology, and yeah, really, I was dreaming about them, I know. And the whole thing was just miserable. I was miserable. And I didn't know what to do with being miserable. I mean, yeah, I suppose to a certain extent there was the practical side of me going, grad school, yeah, that's not gonna happen. But more than that, it was if I didn't do well in school, because I was working just as hard as I'd ever worked, and I was getting like mediocre grades. So it's like, if I don't do well in school, and more importantly, if I don't enjoy this, if I don't enjoy learning and enjoy the classroom, who am I? So deep in an existential crisis at 19, I went and consulted with the professor for the one class that I was taking that I was actually quite enjoying, an international relations political science class. So I was planning on minoring in political science because I was continuing to do the Model UN stuff. I was doing that stuff because that gave me an outlet to argue constructively and engage with topics relating to the wider world. And not only could I talk to my fellow students, but I could also engage with the professors. I mean, I didn't have to have the professorship to be able to have a different, yet still valid opinion and discuss this with them. So Professor Miller, she was young, she was about 11 years older than me, and very nice, and so very relatable, very approachable. But she was like a real actual live grown-up, and she seemed so much more together than I was at that time. And while you might think that would have made more sense for me to actually go talk to someone in the sciences, the biochemistry department, I secretly think I picked Professor Miller because I expected her to champion her life and her subject matter. I kind of figured she would say to me, well, of course you should major in political science. That's much better. I would have my new identity. There you go. Of course she did no such thing. No, Professor Miller, she gave me a homework assignment. She asked me to think about what my life was going to be like, what my life was like now. What did I like doing? And why? Big picture, day-to-day details. And then she said, now think about where you're going to be 5 years from now on this path. What are you going to like doing, big picture, day-to-day basis, and why? 10 years out, 20 years out. I suppose I could have shrugged it off. I mean, I'm sure I thought about it. But at that point, I pretty much felt like I was letting everybody else down, and I really didn't want to let her down. So I embarked on the task she set for me, and it was not an easy exercise. I had to do research and soul search. And I started to think about, well, yeah, science, the stuff I wanted to do, would eventually be incredibly creative. But at the undergraduate level, not so much. You can't really tell the Orgo professor, you know, I've been thinking about it and I don't think the reaction goes that way. And I was impatient and frustrated. But at the same time, I started thinking about the political science classes, and even more so the role of all of those extracurriculars, the things that I was choosing to do in my spare time were things like Model UN and student government and stuff like that. And I was like, well, what am I getting from that? And I realized it's like that was a way for me to connect to a wider world, engage in much more deeply social pursuits. So after thinking about it, ultimately, and with great trepidation, I decided to change majors. I didn't know I was doing the right thing until the moment I let the drop slip go, when I dropped second semester engineering physics. I let go of a piece of paper that was 1/10 of an ounce in weight, and I felt immediately 100 pounds lighter. And I knew to my core that I was doing the right thing. So I majored in political science, and then I took courses in anthropology and linguistics and sociology and history, and I loved school again, and it loved me right back. And then I ended up going to law school. And I've spent a really good career as in-house counsel for organizations working in the public interest. In fact, currently, ironically, I'm Associate General Counsel for the National Academy of Sciences. So I've kind of come full circle, and I am doing that work that is critical thinking and creative problem solving that is helping people in a way that I am connected to the social wider world. I will always be grateful to Professor Miller. I came to her seeking simple answers and external validation, and she knew not to give me any of those things. Instead, she gave me the much greater gifts of exploration and introspection and self-discovery. Essentially what education is all about. Thank you.